name is Sam Jenks, and welcome to another episode of The Way We Source, a podcast hosted by Kodiak Hub, where we share our talks with procurement practitioners, procurement leaders, experts, consultants, content gurus, and people that we find downright inspiring, diving into the role that sourcing and procurement plays in the way that we live. If you like today's episode, don't forget to give the program a like and a follow. And today we have the pleasure of hosting a trailblazer in ProcureTech, a champion of autonomous technology, previously the managing director at Estonia's e-residency, TEDx keynote speaker, and currently the co-founder and CPO of Pactum AI, Casper Korgis. Casper, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thanks for inviting.
My pleasure. We're super excited to have you on. I want to start with a question that we ask quite a bit of our guests. What exactly does sourcing and procurement mean to you, Casper?
Well, in simple terms, it seems that companies have two functions, that they are selling something and then they are buying something. Maybe in between they do something with the items or products they buy, but basically cash in, cash out, and sourcing and procurement is the cash out of that part.
And when it comes to the cash in, cash out, do you think that there's a discrepancy between the sales and the procurement organization, or is there room for more alignment?
Well, I'm surprised that when we established Pactum 3.5 years ago, that procurement, like the cash out, seemed so unsexy for everyone compared to like cash in, which is in some sense obvious. You know, you want to pay salaries and earn profits, hence whatever comes in is important. But I think this landscape is changing now, and people start to understand that the opportunities how to manage and optimize cash out are much higher to get savings and actually get profit out. So this is totally underutilized the domain of business, which seems to be so basic, cash out. But and procurement in that sense, 3.5 years ago at least, wasn't too sexy thing to say. If I told my friends that from e-residency I'm going to maybe dealing with procurement, and they're like, what? But now they're coming and like, holy cow, that you are in control of everything a company spends. You have cash, and if you have cash, you have power.
And isn't that the beauty of the procurement and sourcing function is that they hold global spends in global organizations, yet still for many years were seen as a secondary role in the broader value chain. Okay, so it's an unsexy space. I agree with you. I have to tell my friends the same thing. I think everybody has that moment when they talk about their work in ProcureTech. Regardless, how did you find yourself into the world of procurement and ProcureTech?
We have built AI that conducts negotiations, and procurement is just the best place to be because it happens to every company the same way, in indirect at least, and it makes sense to build an AI that has that wide applicability. And second thing is that if you have power, coming back to the game of power, that if you have cash, you have power, and if you have power, you can determine the rules of negotiations and kind of the playing field in that. And hence, our clients can invite their suppliers to new negotiation methodologies, where while in sales, it's more difficult if you want to sell your products.
So was it the technology that came first for you, and then kind of the application within procurement was the most natural in certain aspects?
Correct. Yeah, I didn't know honestly 4 years ago not much about procurement. So we knew that technology is something that negotiations is something that needs to be solved because they are happening everywhere, also in sales, but basically everywhere. And while knowing that people are not that good in negotiations because of our limited capabilities of doing multidimensional mathematical kind of calculations in real time, and obviously knowing that there are tens of thousands of clients and suppliers that we just don't have time to deal with every day. So we knew that negotiation is something that can be solved, and yes, procurement just we obviously, as a startup founder, you try to evaluate all the different kind of channels and opportunities, but procurement stayed there, who clearly recognize the 80-20 problem, that you do not have time to deal with 80% of your suppliers, and making them autonomous made so simple, clear value prop for everyone.
Hey, everybody has their journey into the way of working in procurement and sourcing. So it's cool to hear about yours. For those of our listeners that are listening into this episode that don't know about what you guys are doing at Pactum, do you mind just providing some background of exactly what it is that you're doing?
Yes, sure. So these days, everyone is quite into bots and AI chatbots. So we can say that Pactum is an AI chatbot for enterprises that helps to conduct negotiations for them. So meaning that if you're enterprise, you have tens of thousands of suppliers, usually long tail, not that well managed. You set parameters for the bot on what terms to be negotiations about, let's say payment days or cost or some commercial terms, and you configure it, and then you send it out to your tens of thousands of suppliers, whether it's on demand when prices go up or down, or whether it's just annually recurring. And then this AI chatbot is something that is trying to reach a better deal. So that if I'm a supplier, I receive a link to my email, I open that, and I land in that chat interface, and I have negotiations with the chat. And in most of the cases, the AI reaches a better deal for both parties, so that eventually we can just update the terms in our client's database, and value has been created out of thin air or on a autopilot, or sometimes our clients like to say that while we were sleeping, the AI built our company.
Super cool. I mean, I love that idea of being able to manage spend while you're sleeping. I think that you hit on the core of something that's pretty interesting there, right? Is being able to manage spend at great volumes is something that a lot of people are trying to do in procurement, and cost savings continues to top the areas where they're trying to apply technology to create development in the business area. How exactly would you say, like volume wise, what size of companies need to be the profile correct for Pactum's use? How many suppliers is there?
It's a good question. Today we are working only with the largest enterprises in the world. So usually their revenue starts on 5 billion in dollars.
Yeah, I just saw you guys got a Forbes article, very nice article with where Walmart was mentioning you guys as well.
Yes, yes, Walmart and Maersk and many other these big names are our clients, and for the same reason that there is the most of untapped potential there, where the revenues are highest. But on the supplier side, on other end, we have suppliers negotiating with Pactum that spend starts with $1,000 and ends in $40 million. And we have, of course, even had like very large suppliers doing conducting negotiations, but like sweet spot is like between 100,000 to 10 million spend supplier that quite often is unmanaged annually, or when it's like even one-off purchases, like you have a rebind Coupa and you have one-off non-catalog purchase requisitions, and there one step is that Pactum is automatically sent out. It is a very small item purchases, and on average we get quite good deal.
You said a little bit about it before, you know, that the tech came first and then the application afterwards, understanding that this was a great place to be able to apply the autonomous technology that you guys had created. What is it that made you and the other team of co-founders found Pactum in particular?
So we have three co-founders besides me, my older brother Christian as CTO and Martin Rund as CEO. And we came together because we noticed that negotiations are happening everywhere. Like every deal you're doing globally, you're buying or selling, but also at home, with your kids who are like very good at negotiations.
What do you want to eat for dinner tonight? How long can I stay up tonight? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always like, can you take out trash or me? If I do, what then? Like there are always this type of things that we trade with each other, even if they're very small matters. But in business, of course, these matters are becoming very large. And and when we trade, we discover that we are not that good in that. We are not that good at evaluating of whether if you change payment days -2%, but get extra 1 year of exclusivity, but those three item prices increase 7%, while by the way, kind of there is freight allowance that needs to be 2% on these allocations. Like, it's impossible for a human mind to like think, what does it mean? Is it a good deal? Is it bad deal? And now to start finding what's the best deal for other side, finding the other side kind of priorities, it just becomes complex tasks. It becomes so complex that then we are dealing only with the largest deals. We put together, we assemble a team and we put together the large teams to work with large deals, and and that means that negotiations are not held at all for majority of cases where it adds value. And negotiations do add value. What is negotiation? Negotiation is you try to find something what the other person or company likes, and you offer that to them. In return, you have something in return, what you value more. And by making trade-offs, you can create value. As simple as that. And then we came together and we're like, hey, negotiations are not happening at all, and we are not meant, our minds are not meant for to do these things. And we are quite science type of people, so we went to science and we found out that, like, on average, up to 40% of value is left on the table per negotiation. Again, this is crazy. You imagine how much work you do in your company to get the extra 40% sales, but inside existing customers, existing suppliers, you leave that amount of money on the table. And so what we did was that, hey, AI is not there yet, although GPTs and everything is cool, but you can't let those guys to do business for you, because they can go crazy there and start speaking about random things. You need to have that negotiations in control of, meaning what terms will be negotiated. This is predetermined. What is the value of the terms for you, so that the AI would know how to do trade-offs. So we had to create an environment, a chatbot, and an environment where we can adjust and modify the terms, the value of terms, and the chat. And this was enough to try it out 3.5 years ago, and try out that whether people are actually ready to have a chat with the AI bot to speak
Are
about
people ready?
speak about important terms. And we weren't sure about that, because chatbots were mostly about, I don't know, customer support or something. And we had the very first person 3.5 years ago, 80-year-old guy from Italy, who said that he hates computers, but he went through the negotiation. It was a car sharing kind of opportunity, and he got, like, I don't know, a better deal that he agreed through chat, and we earned 80 euros to our client, friend of us back then. And then when the guy said that I hate computers, but this was a great experience, because I didn't have to speak to anyone who is usually using me, and it was so clear and simple and fast, and I did it by my mobile phone. And then we saw that, okay, after another kind of initial pilot, it worked. And now we have statistics that people even prefer having discussions via robots, because they can do it at their own space, their own time. There are no emotions involved. It's more about how to get the better deal. And it really works out. And this is like magic and very great validation early days that, hey, chatbots and AIs are there for something much more than customer support.
I love the story about the minimal viable product and your early adopter saving 80 euros, and today you're saving probably millions of euros for businesses. So awesome, awesome to hear.
Yes, and hopefully this year we can save 1 billion to one of our clients. So these things are growing rapidly and expanding as it's very scalable. Imagine you set this up once and you can launch these bots, thousands of bots to work for you at the same time. So it's super crazy how it changes the landscape of how business is conducted.
Awesome. Saving money for your customers while they're sleeping, as you said. I would love to talk a little bit about, your founding story, or more so life as a founder, right? It's a unique journey. It's a lonely one. A lot of people say. There's a quote that I saw from Parker Harris, who was one of the co-founders of Salesforce, that said, "Businesses can't afford to react to what their customers want. They need to anticipate their needs." As a co-founder, but you're also a CPO at the business, responsible for product. You have a continuous responsibility to ensure that your business at Pactum's product is actually delighting your customers. And you've told plenty of stories now as how you're able to delight customers. But how exactly do you make sure that this is the case?
Yeah. I guess in our case, it's 2 points. First, the loneliness. Then, indeed, being co-founder, you have less kind of opportunities sometimes to kind of vent about things, right? Of course, having three co-founders is it's much easier already, right? And I really wouldn't imagine the and don't envy you for being a only founder in your company.
I'm not an only founder at the business, but our founder Malin Schmidt is, and I don't envy her. Let's say it like that.
Because it comes down hard sometimes. But what I do is like what maybe it's not that popular, at least in this region, is that I have personal coaches, psychologists, and open about kind of being vulnerable, kind of in front of the team and everything. Also, kind of not kind of opposite of this macho role models out there that founders need to be the ultimate inspirers and drivers. Kind of, I think in these regions, and especially you're from Sweden, you have the examples of Spotify's and everyone also that I think this is cool and something that just we need to be open about. That this is like a marathon, right? We can't use our energy within first years. But the value creation part of your question, for us, it's actually pretty simple. And we're in a very unique position because we even have gain share pricing models, meaning that we generate revenue or savings, and if and then we have agreed gain what goes to Pactum. And why it's possible is that we just know exactly, we have to know what was the value creation. Otherwise, AI would do very bad decisions. For example, if today contract is net 30 payment days, it goes to net 71 payment days. We know this is 1% value. We multiply, and if now you have $100,000 spend supplier, we generated $1,000 value, right? We know this is $1,000, and we can measure exactly in our dashboards. You can see all your systems are updated with the numbers, and this makes our life super simple because kind of can't argue against the value creation of Pactum. You kind of can't dismiss these millions that you see.
Super cool. How do you ensure that your customers are seeing millions? I mean, how do you like? Because I understand in principle that value creation and and cost savings are revenue driven, right? Those are the two main value props of the solution. I think it's also awesome that you guys are creating gains based upon the amount of revenue created or cost saved, rather than a regular license model that I think many other ProcureTech vendors have. We ourselves have as well. Um, how do you guys work actively with customers to ensure that you're not only capturing their needs but also pushing the envelope for them?
Yes, I think this is a great discussion topic. Like it's what really seems to work is that the group of Fortune 500s who are, and also in Europe, the largest companies who are part of, let's say, the gang of autonomous negotiations out there, they are helping us to discover new ways how these bots can be used in different contract scenarios in different industries, from logistics to banking to retail, right? And when they do that and we build these products, then they are very open amongst each other to share if we share these things. So we take product A from one client, we go to the client B, and basically we show how it's done, and then they are happy to kind of share their stories. So and in most cases they're not direct competitors, they're in different industries, and it's very cool how in the States at least this AI adoption is very kind of openly shared amongst these large enterprises, kind of, and adoptions and recommendations, and they are doing reference calls, and this really feels like that there is this common understanding that AI is here to stay, and we better kind of use it, and we better share openly how to use it.
Super cool story, and I love that symbiotic relationship between customer and tech vendor that is necessary to be able to push the envelope, right? Without their feedback, how do we as the tech vendor know how we can be able to push the envelope for them, right? What is one thing, if you could go back to the start of Pactum, right? One thing that you wish you knew then that you now know today? One thing, one thing is maybe rude to say.
Okay, I'll say one thing. Okay, one very clear thing. So we have a split of team. Engineering is in Tallinn, Estonia, and all the sales and customer and support and project management, account management, everything in the US. And of course, in Europe also, we have German and British clients and people across Europe, but most two biggest hubs in Tallinn and in the States. So I wanted early days that our product managers are very close to our key customers. And our product managers were in the States and engineering in Tallinn. And what they didn't know is that this sacrifice was much larger when product managers and engineers are not in the same room compared to product managers being with customers. So we had to change that last year, and we moved all the product management part of Pactum to Tallinn, or at least in the same time zone, also in Helsinki, and this made product development much faster, and also sales and customers are much happier with that. So same time zone for engineering and PM, definitely a lesson that I would have wanted to know before.
That's a great nitty gritty tip. And it segues nicely into my next question as well. There's plenty of other ProcureTech founders or those that are working in ProcureTech ventures that listen into the podcast. Do you have any concrete tips of somebody that's now starting to achieve success from your venture that you founded 3.5-4 years ago, for somebody that's just starting out on their own journey as a ProcureTech founder? Maybe 2 to 3 concrete tips that you could give them.
It depends on how on what risk scale you would like to start your company, right? Quite often, what we see is that when the new buzz emerges, let's say it's large language models, then everyone jumps on it and starts building their software around it. Uh, we, I've liked also back in e-residence days, like to make some bets about the future. Let's say at e-residency, we mentioned that one bet was that people are ready to engage business terms via bot. Second bet was that the complex contract space can be simplified to our system and our kind of chatbot. And so third was that so we make these bets, and we don't know for sure that this will be correct. That's why we call them bets. No one can, because you do something new. But if it turns out that it worked, then you're ahead of the game. You have the early mover advantage, like we have in Pactum. No one else is automating negotiations like we do. And then you need that few years down the line to get the market, because soon no one is able to compete with Pactum, if even today they would start, because we are thousands of negotiations smarter than them, and our AI is getting better results, and they can't just catch up like that. And I think this is something to consider for a startup. Like, most people need to see that your idea is crazy, or there's no point to even pursue that, because if it would be obvious that it's needed, then you would need to compete with everyone. And I think competing with everyone is much more difficult, especially raising capital when you need not today tens of millions, today you need billions of capital to compete with in some areas with very large enterprises and their kind of startups. So I would recommend, yeah, think about some future state, make bets about that, and start building. And let's just, of course, be adaptive if the bets didn't work out, but stay confident on what direction you chose to go.
Great tips. Take bets. And as I heard at a conference last summer, try not to be better, be different. Be different. I think is stand out from the crowd. Maybe is an aspect to take out of that. So great tips. Great tips. I want to dig a little bit deeper into autonomous negotiation, as you guys are a mover and a shaker in the space. In layman terms, okay, lay it out for me as simple as possible. How does autonomous negotiations solution, the solution that you guys have built at Pactum, you've told a little bit about it prior. How does it work in practice?
So I'm a supplier. I just received an email that, hey, this large enterprise, the client who I'm selling to, wants to review the annual contract that is going to expire in 2 months' time. Let's say I'm selling landscaping services to that company. Okay, yeah, and they have a new way how they will go through the negotiation by please click on this link and let's proceed. Then I click on a link. There is this enterprise branded site, and it asks me, introduces me to the site. It's very polite to me, asking me how I'm doing and what concerns I have with the contract, and asks whether I'm the person to discuss about this contract. I confirm. Asks about are these our contract terms? Does the system has it correctly? Yes, I confirm, or I just. And then it goes into way, first of all, how to increase my business usually. Because as we said, we want to create value by increasing the pie. So, for example, it asks, are there any other locations I would be ready to offer my landscaping services? Yes, then I'll choose that. Yes, in Chicago and in LA, I have teams as well. All right. Then it's okay, what's my price there? And I can list my prices there. So, and it says that it gathers that. And the next round of negotiations, what we do, kind of, we are open to invite you. Or am I interested? And I say, yes, please do. And then it goes, okay, let's go through the new contract, the extension of contract, what we have now. But are you able to kind of compete here also more? Because other suppliers now are offering rates to your location the same way you did for others, kind of. And what we see that this price should be applicable for this year because these commodities went down, for example, or something happened here, and then it goes some back and forth about finding the price that both parties would be happy about, and once the deal, and then if the deal is reached, it depends on the threshold set by the client. Then it goes into signing creates a DocuSign, signs the DocuSign. If both parties sign, then it updates our client's database on the background.
The thing that I love the most out of that, I mean, the ability to be able to streamline the back and forth, to be able to set the red lines initially, and kind of what are the frameworks for this agreement, that what do we want to get out of it ultimately for the enterprise, but also the user experience for the supplier on the other side, that you said that the soft elements of the negotiation are not lost through the AI, which is so important. And my guess would be that the majority of your customers, if I could just guess, you mentioned that it's enterprise, right? They're rather mature, right? They're rather visionary within the types of solutions that they're bringing into the ProcureTech stack, daring to adopt new technologies like AI. And chatbots. Do you believe that this will become more and more common down market or in the mid market?
It's just a matter of years, and honestly, everyone almost who we speak to thinks that they are not that mature compared to everyone else. So I think there is this bias that everyone thinks that everyone else is much more advanced in the space, and the enterprise, you don't need to be Google and Apple. You can work and collaborate with startups and tech companies, and they will have the AI knowledge. What you need to bring in is the part of collaboration and making changes in processes, kind of, and making change management happen and communications happen, like these elements which you know how to do. and let the tech guys work with tech in that sense. And yes, because of this is rapidly evolving, then also in Pactum we are moving more to mid-sized company space through years.
Very cool to hear. You touched on something there that I thought was interesting. I mean, obviously it requires change management in a business, right? They're taking in a new technology, maybe a technology that would potentially receive pushback as well from certain stakeholders. My guess is that certain stakeholders assume that there's a certain level of competency or technological, ability related to using a solution like Pactum. Whereas on the surface, there's probably not much. As you and I both know that work at ProcureTech companies, it's always simpler than the challenge that the business builds up in their own mind. I mean, does a team need a particular type of competency to leverage this type of tech? And if not, I mean, what do you think is the main barrier in organizations to create this change?
Yeah, it's a change management always. Like it's
Yeah,
we always say we want to change, but actually we don't, right? We want
right.
things
We
how
want the
they are.
same.
Yeah. So so definitely we have seen successful use of competence centers in large enterprises that sometimes are not like the innovation hubs, but sometimes are actually sitting together with buyers and merchants as the change management, or let's say the automation divisions of their departments, and they are so their goals are so aligned that to get going with the first pilots, which usually are relevant still, it does help because they have strong relations there. But very, very, very soon you need to still go directly to your stakeholders and enable change management. And of course, change management, it's not easiest for Pactum as well, because the way of how one buyer or merchant or category manager works will change. There's no reason to expect that everything remains the same if AIs have capabilities of mass communication in any domain, not only in negotiations. But how it changes is that it doesn't like eliminate humans' role. On the opposite, it makes it more relevant because now humans can work with more strategic deals and work on, let's say, modifying parameters, configuring the setup, and allowing the AI bots to do the mass mundane job of back and forth. And then this way, we are empowering and scaling buyers by 1,000 times, because now they can do 1,000 negotiations the same day what they did in one negotiation. So, and by enabling technology to do them that and bringing everyone to the game and showing how their lives will change in workplace is something that is in collaboration with our client stakeholders.
Awesome insights. I mean, there's this age old thing that's, oh no, AI is going to come and take everybody's jobs. But as you just said, it might change the way you work, but it might also give you more time to focus on more strategic opportunities. So, super insights. Thank you so much for your time today, Casper. Before we let you go, we are going to get into our little quick fire round that we do with all of our guests, where everybody listening in gets to learn Casper, not just the co founder and CPO of Pactum AI, but also the person. I'm going to give you some quick questions, one word or one sentence answers. If you're ready, then we can get right into it.
Okay, ready.
All right. Are you a dog person or a cat person?
People hate me, but I don't like neither of them that much because I like to travel a lot.
Well, hey, at least you're respecting the rights of the dog or the cat, that they at least will have an owner at home that wants them to be there. So that's good.
Yeah, but usually people don't believe. No, no, it's still one you like more. It's like
All right. Speaking on the topic of travel, you have a travel tomorrow, all expenses paid. Where are you heading?
I'm going to work in Cyprus for a week together with my 2 kids out of 3 kids. So splitting the kids for their sake for a week and also working remotely there. So these days we are built in remote ways, so we can work everywhere we want in the world. And sometimes, of course, yeah.
So you would still take the trip to Cyprus, just have the all expenses paid, is what you're saying then?
No, no, I will cover the expenses on my own pocket. But expenses these days are not that high because food in Estonia already is more expensive. So it doesn't matter where you live.
Indeed. But say that you're not going to Cyprus and you have a trip that's all expenses paid for you. Where are you heading around the world?
Mostly traveling, most around to between states and Europe. So and states in the HQs of our clients. So quite different places where you wouldn't go in normal trips, I would say.
Okay, so you'd still take be in a business context even if it's a vacation paid, but that's cool to hear. The last one I have is that in Swedish we talk about our paradrätt, which is it's a dish that you would have somebody make for you or you would make for somebody else if they're coming over to dinner and it's like kind of your go-to dish to be able to impress. What would you make me if I'm coming over to dinner?
I like to put everything like wine and vegetables in a bowl and to the oven, and then put total different ingredients and make it very spicy, and then it's in the oven for hours and hours, and then everyone is so hungry that it doesn't matter what comes out there, they just like it.
Doesn't sound like a bad tactic. Fantastic for having you on today, Casper. I appreciate you so much for sharing your insights as well. If anybody wants to reach out to you or reach out to the business of Pactum, how can they get in touch with you or learn more about what you guys are doing?
Yes, please go to pactum.com and leave your email there, and we're happy to go through demos and introduce the future.
Thank you again for being on today's episode. We look forward to having you back in the future.
Thank you, Sam, so much, and thank you everyone for listening.